inside of you.
Blessings to all of you beautiful beings. It's Elena and I'm enchanted to have you be here on my channel. Hello and welcome. I'm so glad to have you here. If you're new, consider liking, subscribing, becoming part of my little YouTube family. And if you've been here before, hello and welcome back to each and every one of you amazing, incredible, and gorgeous souls right across the screen. Lots of love, lots of warm hugs, and hopefully you and yours are safe. On today's video, I am doing a very highly requested video of mine of another thrift flip, and I am super excited to share this one. It took me a couple months to do because things just kept happening, so I apologize if like the background starts changing and like my nail changes and lighting and that sort of stuff, but I did decorate some pretty cool pieces and I'm really happy about things that came out. So I found whatever that kind of tray is. There was this bottle which matches the other bottle that I received in the first video that I showed. I didn't do anything with it and it's not actually part of this video. Anyways, then there are those two little storage boxes and this jewelry box that I've had forever. I think it used to be my mom's or something like that. And there's the two little candles and the whatever that little hangy thingy is. So I accidentally didn't do those two candle holders. I did two other candle holders because I said it was like in between a couple months, but I hope you're gonna like the end result. Anyways, starting off with this one because I feel like it's going to be a longer project compared to the other ones. It needs some work and I definitely wanted to give it new life, so I attempted to do so. Now, the flow of this video is going to be not in order of like one item, then the other, and then the other. The way that I work with multiple items is I start with one, and if I need to wait for it to dry, or if I need to wait for something like for the glue to set, or whatever the case may be, I would switch to the next one. That way it saves time, so all my craft supplies are out. I don't know, just the way my brain functions and just the way it helps me work. So I gutted this one out completely. It was surprisingly a lot easier to take out than I expected. At first it needed a good clean, then it's going to need a whole bunch of sanding that needs to get done to make sure it's all smooth and all of that fun stuff, and a whole bunch of other steps. So stay tuned. I think this one is my favorite one out of all of the projects that I've done thus far. I'm telling this to you now because I'm super happy of how this turned out, and I'm just loving using it on my little altar in the living room and like keeping my stuff in it, so stay tuned. I used a couple different grits of sandpaper. I first started off with like a very rough one to kind of really get anything that was not like smoothed down, and then I went on to a more finer grain and then a much finer grain to kind of like buff it out and smooth it out the best that I can. I probably should have done much more sanding than I did, but I guess I just didn't have enough patience to do so. I wish doing the crafts happened as fast as this video is going. I had 8 hours of footage that I needed to edit through and make it into a reasonable YouTube video size. So it's at 400% speed, and like I said, I really wish that actual crafts happened this fast. Here I'm taping off everything except the sides of it that kind of give it that like book pages look sort of thing. And on the cover I tape everything except the inside of the cover, and those are going to be spray painted a gold. Onto the next box while the spray painting dries. This is I found this. I thought it was cool. I liked the potential of like this blank wood slate, and first thing that I needed to do is like go in and get rid of all of that glue from when it was glued together by whomever and then sanding it, making sure it's all smooth and making it pretty. Or at least in my opinion, trying to get it to look pretty. I really like working with wooden type of items and upcycling wooden items. I feel like it can give it a little bit of like a vintagey vibe, or like a more natural type of vibe, if that makes sense. And there's always so much potential that you could do with a wooden storage box. And I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit of obsessed about little storage box for all my trinkets. And it's just, I don't know, I like pretty storage boxes. It's the little crow hoarder in me of pretty things. So it's gold was spray painted, everything's dried. I wasn't really caring about the inside of it since I'm going to be gluing things in. I was surprised just how gold and shiny that spray paint ended up being. I think it needed 2 or 3 coats of it before it got to that stage, and my husband helped me out with that. He's the knowledgeable one when it comes to spray paint. I make a mess with spray paint. And I wanted this box to be like a rich, deep, warm brown color. Here I am mixing a bunch of browns and purples together to kind of achieve the look I'm going for. When I mix any of my paints or any of my watercolors or anything for crafts, I like to put in as much intention into it as possible. And one of the wonderful things you can do with selenite is add it to these paints. Selenite loves to dissolve in water, so using it in watercolors or using it in acrylic paint like that, I find that it connects with it really well and it doesn't interfere with the paint at all. So it's a really good way for me to add even more intention into my paints, and I always look forward to adding more magic into the crafts that I create. So painting this required a whole bunch of layers. Lots and lots of layers. But there is a positive to having lots and lots of layers of paint. Yes, it's tedious and frustrating, at least in my opinion, but it also creates a much thicker barrier and it'll be a little bit more scratch resistant than if it was like a different kind of paint with just one or two coats. Like think of it of nail polish. You get a much better coverage if you do more than one coat of nail polish than if you just did with one. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Anyways, lots of paint coats. Onto these two other wooden things. I'm going to need to sand them down, and I'm staining them in that same dark wood color as well. And more paint coats on top. Almost done with it though, almost. This other box, I didn't want to stain it. I had a beach type of vision for it, and so I went with painting it as well and deciding on the perfect like teal blue something aqua kind of color, and as well adding in my intention. The intention for the items that I'm keeping is things to bring magic and things more specific to how I'm going to be using this item. And a couple items I will be selling, and my intention for those items is just to bring joy and magic and happiness to the person that purchased it. So anything that was painted, any item that I created has been infused with as much love as I can add into it. For these two, I believe they were candle holders, candle plates. I wanted to still keep them as candle plates, but add more of like nature pizzazz type of thing to the side of it. And so I went with like little river stones such as those and kind of did a moon outline, and then covered it with resin. That way if you do burn a candle on top of it, it's gonna have to be obviously a smaller candle than what it could hold before, but it wouldn't interfere with the stones and moving the stones around. Another thing that I did was in between the cracks, I added pieces of pyrite. So the little crystals that you see me sprinkling in there are little pyrite crystals to not only fill in the holes, but again, add a little bit more magic to those items. Finally, the gazillion amounts of layers are complete. So I wanted to do kind of like a triple moon goddess symbol for this, but instead of using another gold piece in the center, I used a carnelian crystal. Carnelian is my favorite crystal to work with, and I was just really excited that I had some Cabicons that were of that crystal type. So gold edges over the brown, gold corners, edges, the pretty gold things, the gold moons, and some wonderful carnelian crystals. Occasionally, you might see my head pop into frame with a bird's nest of hair, because I'm not... I usually do these in like PJs or something like that late at night, because I have a window in my office, so when I need to record something, I do it in the evening or at night, which allows me not to have any other like lighting interfere. So crafts, only my hands are showing, which means I'm in PJs with a messy braid and just sipping on tea, listening to an audiobook, and enjoying life. Do you have any audiobooks that you could recommend? So drop down the titles and like the genre of the book. So all of that is dried and my husband clear coated. My husband used spray paint clear coat just to keep everything in place and give it like that shininess. I also had these little beads. They were wooden beads, and we spray painted them gold with the same exact gold spray paint to give them like the little feet to kind of, I don't know, add more pizzazz to the little box. My vision for this item was like a whimsical, magical, like galaxy window with like crystals, so more of like, I don't know, a fairy tale type of vibe or a story tale type of vibe. Something along those lines. This item, the tray, I wanted to add more nature to it and just have it be resin encased leaves, and this was the first time I ever used resin on any of my crafts, so that was definitely a learning curve. And all of these dried leaves is something that I collected myself, foraged myself, dried over time, and just love incorporating them into my artwork. I used a little bit of Elmer's glue just to kind of tack them down in place, so when I pour the resin over it, it wouldn't move around, and that seemed to work pretty well. Back to this box, I used quartz points, kind of like the quartz broken points type of pieces, and built them up to make it look like a quartz cluster. And I had to do it like step by step. Put in a couple, let them dry, add in a couple more, let them dry, until I was able to build up this like 3D piece here that makes it look like it's kind of growing out of the box. Sort of. Whimsical, like I mentioned. Back towards this box. It's almost done. On the top cover of it, I wanted to put in this envelope. That way, if I needed to keep specific intention for it, or I don't know, enchant this box in a different way, or use a different purpose, or something along those lines, or maybe keep a tarot card that I'm working with, or an oracle card, I wanted to have that option. And it also had some scratches under there, which the envelope covered it up, so it's a 2-for-1 kind of deal. And finally, I needed to add an inside layer to it. So this is an old cardigan of mine from middle school, because I'm a hoarder of all things that I can feel like I can repurpose. And it was brown. It had that like warm tones of brown, and I think it matches pretty well. So I took those older pieces of like the lining and used it as a reference point to measure what sizes I need, and then I just kind of glued it right onto the fabric. All of the supplies that I'm going to be using, at least every single one that I can find a link to, will be linked in the description below if you want to check them out or anything along those lines. Finding cool things that I can repurpose at thrift stores is definitely one of my favorite hobbies to do, and some of the treasures that you can find in a thrift store are amazing, whether it be clothes, shoes, or little tchotchkes such as these. I used cardstock paper to give it more firmness or rigidness so that it won't be like too flopping around, and I think everything turned out pretty good, and I really like the texture. It's like regular stretchy cotton texture of the fabric, and I think it goes really well with the box. making sure everything fits, and then gluing it all in. Clipped everything down to the best of my abilities, and voila! I'm really happy the way it turned out. Like I mentioned earlier in this video, this is probably my favorite craft that I have done thus far, and I've done quite a few crafts. And each time I do more, I learn more, get to experience with new techniques, and see how I can improve on later ones. Alright, onto this other box. The oil I added is also an intention oil, just to add more meaning and magic to these items. I used aluminum foil to make a shiny, shimmery moon that would match with the other sparkly beads that I'll be adding later. I will be showcasing all of the completed items at the end of this video if you want to just skip to it, see how they finished, or anything like that. I'll be showing them in much more detail than I do throughout this chaotic crafting compilation. I'm taping up the sides so that it could be sprayed with a clear coat on the inside that would help keep the beads in place and give it just a little bit of a shimmer. So for this box, I envisioned something with amethyst, and those are natural amethyst crystals, crystal cabochons, and just give more pretty pizzazz to the box. I love the brass tones of this like little decorative piece type of thing. I don't know what to call it. The metal decorative thing, and the brown of the box definitely gives it a little bit of like that vintagey, witchy vibe aesthetic, and I like going for that. Kind of reminds me of an amethyst butterfly. So finishing up that box, adding in the hinges, and it is all set. Onto this one. So like I said, I had a bit of a beach theme idea to it, and I think I achieved it. It's definitely a process going through and painting these things because you need to add multiple layers to some of them, and it's a process that takes more time than you would expect. So for this box, I wanted to add more of those gold metallic pieces. I have no idea what they're called. Those gold metallic details. And I'm also adding black agate to add more detail to it. And again, it's a natural crystal, and I'm really loving adding all of this magic to it. There's just something about gold on a dark brown that just like brings joy to my soul. I think it's such a beautiful color combination. What are some color combinations that you enjoy? Onto the seashell box. So a lot of these seashells are seashells that I found throughout my beach adventures, and the sand is from a beach in Connecticut that I go to pretty frequently, and a couple of these are from like purchases or gifts from other seashell things, and the starfish is definitely something I purchased. I wish I would find one. Here I am mapping out, just seeing how things would work out and how to arrange everything before I add in the resin. And I wanted to put in UV resin down on the bottom before I poured the resin over it, just so it has something to kind of stick onto and be held in place, so when pouring the resin over it, it won't interfere with it. And onto the resin. I have realized that it's a lot easier to work with than I expected it. You just have to be really careful on mixing it. You have to mix it fast enough but light enough to not create a bunch of bubbles, and that takes practice, but overall it's much more simple than you would expect. Oh, and then you have to watch out for bubbles forming at the end, and you can use either a flame or rubbing alcohol to kind of help get rid of them. You'll see me use the rubbing alcohol to get rid of some of the top bubbles. And when it's cured, it just looks so nice. Onto the top. I had to glue those pieces on the top in sections, and I had to position that storage box in a way so that the crystal wouldn't slide, because the crystal has some weight to it, and I needed a good amount of glue to make sure everything stays in place. It ended up sliding a little if I didn't keep it level, so I needed to go step by step to keep adding crystal by crystal, let it cure, add the next one, etc, etc. So instead of those like little smaller ones, I used these instead, and I carved some stars, moon, and sun, and a pentacle design into them. Unfortunately, the camera isn't really picking up the details of these. It looks a lot better in person, and when a candle is like burning inside of it, it definitely resonates a little bit better than just looking at it. Stencils definitely help to make everything even and symmetrical to make these two candle holders into siblings. As I mentioned earlier, I really wish that actually doing these crafts happen as quick as you see them on the screen. Now in the seashell, I ended up pouring leftover resin in it to build up like the inside of it, and I kept building it up. That way it had a lot more surface area to glue down and not like just the edges of it. So it has a full like flat bottom and it's completely glued down, giving it a lot more structure and sturdiness to really not move around. For this box on the top, I went with another triple goddess symbol, this time just using the gold pieces. The gold details, the gold metallic, whatever they're called. If you know what they're called, please let me know down in the details below. They're details, jewelry, I don't know. Finalizing that box, putting the hardware back together. I tried to match the details of that box to the hardware, and here is the finished product. I love how the blue slightly shows the wood underneath, giving it that like beach worn out look a little bit. And the inside of it, you get a little sea sand and shells surprise. And even though the resin looks kind of deep in there, there's still a lot of room for you to put things in. I really like the way that one turned out. Finally, that piece. The clear coat definitely helped the quartz crystals stand out more and give them more like a shine to it. And I love how the beads sparkle. Then this storage box. When it was like being spray painted, something happened in the top but ended up getting like more gold for some reason, and I've been using this box diligently, like almost on a daily basis, which is why you see a little bit of scuff marks. Like I said, this happened over a couple of months, and it was the first item that I finished and the item that I really enjoy using. So it held up pretty good over the past months, and it brings me joy whenever I see it. I love it. Onto this, I coated it with resin. I made a couple mistakes on the resin. This was my first resin pour ever, so it was a learning curve. But I love using this tray as for like my tarot readings or using runes or things like that. And I just really love the encapsulated nature aspect of it and like a reminder of my hikes and spending time with my dog and my husband. Again, these don't show up as great on camera, but that's the sun. It has details like rays around it. It has a pentacle on the back of it. And I really like the way these siblings turned out. Then there's this item, the little vintagey amethyst box. Again, I tried to match the detailed pieces to the hardware of it, and the inside is nice and purple to go with the amethyst crystals, of course. These two candle holders, like I mentioned, I covered the stones with resin. That way they'll stay in a nice place and you won't get like wax bits in between it or anything like that. I love the way they turned out, and like the stones with the resin just have such a nice texture. And we got two moon sisters. Then this big storage box. I only had so much ability to work and stain this box. It did have some like imperfections, as you can see, but I feel like it gives it more character and makes it look like older or like more vintagier than it really is. It gives it an age of wisdom, or like an essence of wisdom. And I just love how big that storage box is. Because black agate is a good protection stone, it'll protect whatever goodies you put inside. And that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, the whole shebang. Tell me what your favorite item is. And since you made it all the way to the end, let me know that you did make it all the way to the end and put down a little galaxy emoji in the comment section below. See you in the next video. Love you all. Bye!